Welcome to Elevating la Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share their passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with the Latina perspective. This is season 3, focused on education. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hola, I'm Karina, host of Elevating la Cultura podcast, and today I'm talking with Vanessa Avalos, my friend who is opening up a bilingual and culturally relevant playroom. You can definitely hear the passion behind what she is building, and she shares so much information about the process of building something from the ground up and all of the emotions that go with it. She is seriously working so hard to bring this access to our community. So please enjoy my conversation with Vanessa from Luna y Cielo. Hello! I am so excited, and I know I say I'm so excited for every single guest, but I seriously am excited for every single guest. But especially Vanessa today, I'm excited to talk with her about all that she's doing in the education space, especially for our Latinx community. I met Vanessa in person a few years ago because we're both part of Chicago Latina Moms. She is super involved in the community Chicago Latina Moms, and we had Isa, the founder, back on the podcast in season 1. She was one of my first interviews, and we met in person, and we have been working closely through CLM, but also with what she's doing with her business. So I'm going to stop talking. Vanessa, you can go ahead and introduce yourself because I'm going to get ahead of myself and get too excited and share everything. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Vanessa Avalos. And I was born I feel like I was born in Chicago, but I wasn't. I was born in Dallas, Texas. But both of my parents, they grew up here in Chicago, but they moved out to Dallas for my dad's job before we were born. And I say we were born because I'm a twin. And we weren't really spoken to in Spanish growing up in Texas. The story that I always remember being told is that my mom felt like there was too much racism in Texas, and so she didn't want us speaking Spanish. She didn't want us coming into issues speaking Spanish in Texas. So that was what it was. We just never learned Spanish, right? And then, we ended up moving back to Chicago when we were about 4 years old, and my mom just remembers us finally being immersed in the Latino culture. And you would think that in Texas we would be. I don't know exactly what the demographics is like in Dallas, but you always hear Texas is really close to Mexico, I guess, depending on if you live in a border town or not. But Dallas is north of Texas. So I don't really know how it was, but we never spoke Spanish out there. So when we came here, we were more with the Mexican community. But then it was already too late. My parents just didn't speak Spanish to us. And then I remember my parents would talk to each other in Spanish. And so it became the kids don't know what we're talking about. So we'll just use our language to communicate when we don't want the kids to know what we're talking about. So it kind of just happened. And I do remember growing up, I would get, oh, you're not Mexican enough because you don't speak Spanish. And it would really hurt, right? And I know, Karina, you felt the same way. I know we've bonded over that before. My husband is Mexican. He does not speak Spanish. His dad would speak to him in Spanish, but then they would all reply in English. And I just realized, if I didn't do something about it, our kids would lose the language, and I didn't want that to happen. And then someone told me about a dual language school in Chicago. So my daughter has been going to the same school for several years. She's been doing a dual language program. And I just really love that she's immersed in our culture. This specific school that she goes to is a Catholic school. And as you may know, that our culture is very religion based. And so she is learning about Las Posadas. She's learning about Dia de los Muertos in school, which I absolutely love, right? And so I wanted to make sure when she was growing up that she had as many opportunities as she could to hear the Spanish language in school and even outside of school. I would take her to bilingual story times. I would take her to anything that I could get my hands on. And so it really became passionate. I would always buy books in Spanish. We have a ton of bilingual Spanish books. So just my passion for bilingualism developed. I should also say that that it was really hard for me to move past not knowing Spanish growing up. And I think it took me a really long time to like be okay with not speaking Spanish or sounding not Mexican enough, or but I'm finally over it, and I want others to stay strong and say, hey, like this is part of our journey, right? Our family's journey. When the Germans came, the Italians came, eventually they lost connection to their culture. Maybe not their culture, but their language definitely. And so yeah, so saying all that, I just really I wanted to do something about it, right? And also being part of Chicago Latina Moms group. So it's a Facebook community, and it's I think we're closer to 4,000 members already at this point. But we would always get questions from all the ladies, and a lot of those questions I noticed were, where do you teach your kids Spanish? Is there a place for Spanish, for like Spanish classes, right? And I love the reference. I forgot who, I know a couple of the ladies have said, the Greeks have Greek school and the Jewish have their Jewish school. What about us? Like, wouldn't that be so cool? And so I decided to do something about it. And that's how my kind of idea started forming in my brain. Sorry. So in 2019, actually, we were just me and Karina were just talking about how like 2020 was kind of like obsolete, and we can't remember how many years ago something happened. But in 2019, actually, my idea started kind of brewing, and around that time was like, okay, even my husband and I were like, hey, you should go back to work. And I'm like, yeah, but like I worked in nonprofit and I didn't make that much money, at least not enough for me to like uproot my life and start, a full-time job, having to pay for daycare. And then why? Like it just didn't make sense to me, right? And so I started toying with this idea of having a Spanish bilingual playroom. And my husband, I love him so much, but like I know he was scared, right? Because it sounds like a crazy idea, and I am known to have like these crazy ideas, and then like it doesn't work out, or it never just comes to fruition, right? And he's like, oh, how much is this gonna cost us, like so anyways, I was like, okay, if I can like create my own business, which I've always wanted to do because I've always wanted to have my own independence, if I can create this, and not only for myself, for my children, for our community, but for other Latinos, Latinas to be able to have a home to call their own, that would be just amazing. And 2020 happened. So this was in September 2019. So I was like, we're getting into the holiday season. I'm like, okay, I'm going to let the holidays pass, and then 2020, I'm going to go full force at it. And then the pandemic happened. And I was like, I really wanted it to happen in 2020, right? And so I've been thinking lately that 2020 has been a huge curse, obviously, but for me, it's also been a great blessing because I have able to pump my brakes a little bit more on the idea and develop it a little bit further. Um, Last year, 2020, I decided to form my business, and I started offering Spanish music classes with my friend who is a Spanish she's a music teacher. And so she did one of our very first bilingual Spanish classes, and it was a music class. And that was great. And we did it outdoors in a park. And I mean, it was a big hit. Like, moms loved it. Kids loved it. Men loved it too, I should say. The husbands loved it too, the ones that were involved. And then COVID numbers went back up. So we couldn't really continue on. But in that from, I don't know, January 2020 until now, I've kind of really just been pushing the idea of a bilingual Spanish playroom. And I've been able to develop my idea. I've taken courses with a lady who had her own playroom in New York. And so she created some online courses, and I took her courses, and I learned a lot. I'm still continuing to learn a lot. I'm part of one of her communities on Facebook, and there's, I don't know, over 100 other play cafe owners who kind of we just talk about our problems, our issues, what we need to resolve. And so my first idea was just to have a bilingual playroom. And then I was like, wait a minute, we need Spanish classes, right? Because going back to the point, my first point was these parents are wanting Spanish classes for their kids, right? They don't want their kids to forget the language, forget the culture, right? So having a playroom, so it's going to be I call it a culturally relevant playroom. So what that would look like, and what that means is I will have a kitchen, for example. And in our kitchen, we'll have like a mini tortilla press, a mini pilon. A pilon is for Puerto Ricans, when they make their mofongo, they smash it in what's called a pilon. It looks like a pedestal, mortar and pedestal type of thing, and it's got like a handle, and you smash the bananas. It's really good food. We've been to Puerto Rico, and they make some really good food. And then we'll have like a mini empanada press. We'll have just a bunch of little things that the kids can recognize their house in our space, right? Because normally when you go to a playroom, I don't know how to say, but it's mostly a white space, right? Is it intentional? Maybe not really. But I wanted to make sure that I was intentional in making sure that our space represented many different Latinx cultures, right? Not only Mexican. I'm Mexican, my husband's Mexican, but there's plenty of people in Chicago that are more than just Mexican. So I'm really trying to be conscious that there's more than just the Mexican culture. What else can I say? Also we're going to have the culturally relevant play. We're going to have Spanish classes for all ages, all levels. One of the biggest questions I always get from a lot of the adults are, what about classes for adults? And I'm like, hey, if you guys want that, we'll work on it, and we can have something like that. We're also going to have a coffee shop. So I'm not a big coffee drinker. Karina, I know you love your coffee. So we will definitely be having some coffee and some light Latino food, like most of it will be catered. One of our philosophies is to work with as many Latino vendors as possible. Elevating la Cultura, ¿verdad? That's, if we're not conscious about that as Latino people, why would we expect other people to be conscious of that? So I really want to bring in other Latino businesses. So I would bring their catered food into our space, and everyone would be able to enjoy it. So our fourth component would also be to have a bilingual gift shop. Try to be as bilingual as possible or culturally relevant. And again, this would be local artisans that we would get in contact with, and we would have like a little gift shop inside of our playroom.
Yeah, I mean, I love the whole concept, and I feel like since I've met you, like this is what you've been brainstorming, and I'm so proud that I've seen like the whole process from like the idea, from like even just I think it was in 2019 that you did like a Zoom just to get information, like just to start talking about it. And like that is like so important when you are building something that is for the community, to make sure that it is centered around actual community ideas, like wants, needs, desires. And that's what you're doing. I mean, we even like brainstormed. I remember, I think one of the questions you asked, like, is a coffee shop necessary? Or like, should I do it? And I'm just like, girl, yes, because if you got moms with their kids, like even if people aren't coffee drinkers, like you want to go and get like a tea or a drink. And
well, I'm even thinking of agua frescas too, like in the summer. Or like hot, we'll do like hot chocolates and stuff, but like our style, right? Or chatas and stuff like that. Yeah,
for sure. I think that's like even more of a community aspect, because like our culture is centered around like comida, and like you want to be able to go and get like, especially after like kids go to their classes or like play, like they're gonna be hungry and they're gonna want a snack.
And something light where it's not like, oh my gosh, we have to have a meal. So yeah, just like little bite-sized foods and stuff like that. So, oh, I should probably plug the name of the of the company. So it's Luna, La Luna. It's called Luna y Cielo, but my friend bought me this. Shout out to Mari, another Chicago Latina mom. It's called Luna y Cielo Play Cafe. And I'm excited because I'm getting, now that the kids are finally back in school after almost a year and a half, I'm starting to work more expeditiously to find a location, to find funding. Yeah, so like I'm just like really excited because I have done a lot of work to ask the, actually I should say I built up a community of over 400, I think over 500 people who are already interested in Luna y Cielo. I was about to say Chicago Latina moms, but who are very interested in Luna y Cielo Play Cafe. And I've, picked their brains. I've had different discussions. I've had, I don't know, 4 or 5 different chats with moms to see what they're looking for, right? Because I'm not going to build something thinking that I know what people want and then it's not what they want. And so I'd rather ask and see what everyone is looking for. I actually have a Facebook community, a Facebook page, and then I have a VIP Facebook group, I call it, and that's just where like I ask people questions. Like I remember, going back to having another community of Play Cafe owners, one of their things that we had talked about is that the trend right now is for people to sign up for a specific time slot to go to a Play Cafe. And you have to pre-book in advance. That's just because of COVID. A lot of these playrooms are kind of shifting towards that. And so I asked my community, I'm like, hey, is this something that you would be interested in, or would that not work out? And my friend was like, oh my God, it would be horrible, because not horrible, but like for her specifically, because she kind of like does everything last minute, which I totally get because I am that last minute type of person anyways. She's like, that would be not really convenient for me. I'm like, okay. But then someone else is like, oh, I would love that. So I'm like thinking, like, how do restaurants do it, right? You do reservations for like 60% of the people and leave 40% for walk-in guests. I'm like, that I can do that. That's like a happy medium, right? And so just trying to understand what people want has really been really helpful. I wanted to make sure that we created an inclusive space for all of our families who do have neurodiverse children. So I had a discussion with a few moms. I worked hard to get their feedback and see what their needs were, right? Because I don't have a neurodiverse child. I know a few other play cafe shops who, for neurodiverse children, they'll block off like a certain day of the week for those children. And when I brought that to the panel of, or not panel, but group of ladies that I spoke to, they're like, yeah, but then that's kind of like, it's not inclusive. I'm like, I get it. They don't want to just come in and only play with other neurodiverse children. They want to be included into those groups. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. But then, like, how do you get other children to play with neurodiverse children, right? And so I remember, and the ladies were asking me, like, why was I so interested in this, right? Because there's not a lot of people that would take particular interest in neurodiverse children. And I specifically remember going to take my daughter to a water park, and there was children that had special needs. And I don't know why. I remember specifically, like, when we were little, my mom would be like, don't talk to those kids. Don't talk to, but don't look at. Like, you don't, but she said it like, we don't want to, like, make them feel uncomfortable, right? And that's just, what my mom was taught as a young child, right? And I remember specifically, like, in that moment, I was like, and without even thinking, like, at the moment when my mom told me, hey, don't look, don't stare, is probably more so what she said. Don't stare. Not realizing what those words were kind of telling me was, don't talk to that kid. Don't play with them. And I'm just like, what a horrible feeling that those children must feel, right? And so when I was at the water park with my daughter, I'm like, wait a minute, like, no, like, I don't want those kids to feel unwanted. And I'm like, look, these kids were made a little bit different. They still want friends. They still want to be loved. And I want you to not be afraid of them. You can ask questions. And she just smiled and she waved at the little kids. They were already on their way out. But, like, it just made me realize, like, like, that we all need to, as parents, recognize that and do something about it, right? And so now, as a business owner, how do I get other people to understand that, right? Like, hey, let's be more inclusive to these neurodivergent children. Like, that's going to take a lot of work, like a lot of maybe platicas that we can have with our parents and just, kind of talk about it, right? Because we were told not to talk to these children, right? Because they were different. And it was more kind of like, we don't want them to feel awkward, but then we did make them feel awkward, right? Because we didn't talk to them. And so, yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone feels included in our space, because they should. Just plain and simple, they should.
Yeah, I like what you said earlier too about, and it ties into this, having to do a lot of unlearning now that we're adults, whether it's around the fact that we were feeling shame for not speaking Spanish, or unlearning some of the things that were passed down or taught to us when we were kids, because we're realizing that, like, that's blocking, like, the fullness of who we are and who we could be, and then who we can be serving as well. So I love the fact that you talk openly about having to relearn some of the things that we were, to first
There's
unlearn.
been a lot of relearning and unlearning.
Yeah.
I feel like I've changed. Like, so last year, not to cut you off, last year we switched schools for my daughter for just we ended up just being for 1 year, and we're back. And I'm like, I was talking to one of the moms, and I was like, wow, I've changed in just like a year. It's, man, like I didn't realize how much it's been, because I hadn't really talked to other people about, just different things. And I'm just like, I really have a lot of hopes and aspirations for this next generation, because we're doing the work of unlearning, and then we're reteaching. My husband and I, sorry, super quick tangent. My son, like, if I one time I asked him, hey, did you do this? And he's like, no, mommy, I didn't. And I was like, holy crap, he just lied, because guess why? He didn't want to get yelled at. And so, like, I told my husband, and we're like, okay, we need to change the way we communicate in general. And just like literally like within the last couple of weeks, we've all tried to like change our tone when we talk to each other, and it's been amazing.
That's great. I think it's been like a huge shift in a lot of people during this time of not like being so busy. Like 2020, we had to make a hard stop, and that gave us time to focus on like our family unit. So not like listening to many outside voices or trying to compare yourselves with everyone that you're around, but really focusing, at least for us, like we really got clear on our family values, and like especially as parents, like we knew we needed to change, and that shift started happening in 2020, in part because we had all the time to just hang out at home
in the 4 confined walls of your house.
Yeah. I know that you have been doing a lot, like even though 2020 kind of put a pause on a lot of your plans, you've still had the drive to keep things moving and to keep things like the momentum going. I'd love for you to talk about the things that you did during 2020, because I think it's like most people would have just stopped and been like, okay, I'll pick up later. But your passion for what you're doing was so strong that you just shifted, pivoted, and kept going.
I kid, because I think like I just don't want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. I seriously don't. Yeah, I worked in a couple different finance places, and like I just remember like you really can't leave. Like you have to be there from the moment you start to the moment you end. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I've always thought about like wanting to be able to be my own boss, to be able to make my own schedule. And now that I have 2 kids, I'm just like, I want to still be able to go to like the little school events, right? When I want, when I can, and just having as much opportunity to be part of the kids' lives, to pick them up, and so yeah, so I just knew that I had to take this time, and I'm so glad that I took this year to just talk more about my business. I've really tried researching as many like free opportunities and resources for my business. I've worked with the Women's Development Corporation. I've worked with I Fund Women, and I've applied to several grants. I did win a grant, and so I just gravitated to all these types of resources, and these different resources, organizations would tell you, hey, you need to like build your story. You need to do an elevator pitch. And within the last year, because I've looked at some of my notes before, I already know the ins and outs of why my business, how it's gonna, like my 4 points. I'm gonna have the playroom, the classes, the coffee shop, and the I call it mercadito. But then sometimes I have to code switch and call it a gift shop. So depending on who I'm talking to. But yeah, and so like just like nailing down exactly like bits and pieces about my business. And I've really just honed in like the philosophy, my vision. And so storytelling is a big part of the business, right? Like there was a billboard on 55 and it was like the worst billboard. Okay, so I went to school for graphic design. So I took a bunch of art classes and I'm like, oh my God, this billboard is so horrible because it's like a red, a matador, and he's got like a red, you know, I don't know what they call it, right? You seen it? And then it's like behind it is red. I'm like, why would you do that? But I was like, yo de chismos. I'm like, who are these people? Why would they do this? And then I read their website and I feel like I told you this story or like something similar. And I went to the website and like they talked about their story and I'm like, okay, damn it, I'm sold. I'm buying. So it's El Matador, Sazon, and Seasoning. And the guys are from Mexico and they came here. I think they're partners. They came here, they like had this beautiful story and I'm like, it sold me. And I was like, that's amazing. Like you really have to like make sure you tell a story. Why? And I felt like my why and my story will resonate with, I know it resonated with you, right? Because we kind of share the same type of journey where like we realized that our culture was going to be erased if we didn't do something about it. Or we felt like people were making fun of us because we weren't Mexican enough or Latina enough, right? And 2020 has definitely been like a year where like I kind of just made sure to keep the light illuminated, right? Made sure that like I remember the first time I started, I like told a few of my friends that I was doing this and they're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And the only person that has told me like it wasn't a great idea was some lady like from like a different state and she totally didn't get it. She's like, but you're not being inclusive of, I was like, really? Seriously? So yeah, I was like, everyone that I've told, they're like get really, really excited because this is something that they wish that maybe they had when they were younger or when their children were a little bit younger because maybe they have teenage children. So I have with it, I think over this past summer or even in April, I think I started doing vendor events. So before this business, I was a LuLaRoe consultant. And so I was used to like going to vendor events, right? And so like, I was like, okay, if I go to a vendor event, what do I have to sell, right? Like, I don't want to just be like, pay money to like put marketing materials out and be like, oh, this is eventually going to happen. Like, how am I going to bring those people in, right? And I was like, well, I do need money. So I ended up purchasing wholesale Spanish books. And what else? I don't have a shirt with me. I can get one though. I made these awesome bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural shirts. One of them says hola. And my favorite and the crowd favorite is this one. It says, oops, sorry. I made little tags too. So this is bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. I have children's sizes for that shirt, but let me tell you, I get more adults requesting that in their size because it resonates with them. And so, yeah, I've been selling books. I've been selling the t-shirts to raise money to open up Luna y Cielo. I also, what else did I do? Oh, I created I ended up bringing out some of my children's toys and like I'll put the little kitchen set and I'll have the kids' toys there. And I have some like different types of building blocks. So I create like a little like mini event within the event, right? And so the kids get really excited. It allows the kids to play and keep them calm. And then I'm able to talk to the parents and get them excited about Luna y Cielo. And yeah, it's just putting out the word before I start, before I actually open. So it's kind of just creating that buzz and excitement, right? Because who knows? I don't know like which month I'm going to open yet, right? I have to work on funding, which I have been working on this year. I have done a pitch competition. I think I came really, really close to it. And as soon as it was done, I was like, that's okay. I didn't win, but I can go, so I can pitch that same competition and I could possibly get more money. So I'm like, that's my silver lining, is that I can hopefully get more money. And as you know, like generational wealth has not been really widely discussed or thought about in our community. And so, and also I don't want to like put myself in debt. I shouldn't say that. I guess I'm scared of it, right? And so I need to be careful. And I want to take advantages as many of as many opportunities that come to my way. So I also applied for a grant. It's called From My Block, My Hood, My City. And I got a $2,500 grant. It's a little tiny micro grant, but it's going to help. I'm going to set that money aside for our classrooms. I really want to have at least 2 classrooms within our facility. So I'm still working out the amount of square footage that I'm going to need. I'm really, what's the word, challenged maybe, to like picture how much 3,000 square feet were to look like compared to 5,000 square feet. So I'm going to be going soon with a realtor to go look at spaces, but I want to make sure that I can at least have 2 classrooms. I really want the 2 classrooms because I want the kids to, Karina, you and I both have 2 kids. So maybe the little one is in class and then the older one can be playing, or vice versa. Now, because a lot of companies are going to be permanently work from home, maybe that's an opportunity for parents to come in and work from Luna y Cielo while their kids play. So I'm just trying to give myself as many opportunities to thrive, to flourish, to work with what our community's needs are. So next up is I'm going to be looking for the spaces so I could get an idea of what size space I need and like what it's going to cost to in rent. And then what's that? The next after that, I Fund Women is a company that I have. It is a company, but it's an organization, Masbian. And this organization, they help women, business entrepreneurs, step up their game. And they have like all these different resources. They have like this coaching thing where like you can pay for a coach. And I'm like that's beyond my reach because I don't have the money to do that, right? And so like they even recognize that women of color don't have those opportunities. So they created an offshoot called I Fund Women of Color. And so they're specifically helping women of color be in business and, do the coaching at a smaller nominal fee, which I haven't looked into, but I'm going to be looking into that. They also are promoting and they're doing like, they're helping Latinas specifically prepare themselves to launch a crowdfunding campaign. And the crowdfunding campaigns is set to start on Hispanic Heritage Month. So September 15th, I'm going to be launching. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. is going to be launching on September 15th. I'm still like in the process of building all of that out. And oh my goodness, it is so much work. Like, I know Chicago Latina moms, we've raised $50,000, and our goal was only $25,000 for undocumented folks here in Chicago. But like, I'm doing this all on my own. So like, all of it rests on my shoulders. And I was like, wow, like, so I bought this massive like dry erase board calendar, which I'm obsessed with. We already have some for the house, but so like I started plotting all my things out, and like I'm like raring to go. Like I'm gonna kill this thing. Like it's just, I've put so much work into it. It's only been a week that I've been doing the work, but we're in August right now, and I know this is gonna film in September sometime. So I still have many more weeks ahead of me to continue working. But I said it, September 15th. I'm committed to it. I want to raise money to be able to open up this play cafe. I also, for my play cafe, and because we were also talking about generational wealth, like I really want Luna y Cielo to be like this, not only like an amazing community, amazing business, but like I want to be able to empower other women, other Latinos, other men. And so like we talked already about having other Latino business, but like restaurants, like bring in their catered items to our or to our play cafe, bring artisans into our space so they can sell their work, right? And so like if we have a, an artisan who sells, I'm trying to think of something that they may sell, something like handmade, like hair bows or something, right? And like, how do they survive, right? They have to go to like vendor fairs, and like they have to hustle, right? Which, hey, it's great, but like if I already have that community built in there for them, why wouldn't I, help them out, right? So if you're interested, if you're selling something handmade and it is Latino or Latinx, Latina, Latine, whatever you want to call it, inspired, Chicana, Chicano, whatever you guys call it, reach out to me, and we'll see if we can have a space for you. But my whole point was to kind of say that I do want to uplift others and empower them. And eventually, down the road, once I have everything set up, I would love, love, love to be able to franchise Luna y Cielo. Why not, right? Like, instead of just doing it on your own and just trying to do it with me, do it, I haven't picked a location. I grew up in Logan Square on the north side of Chicago, but and I would love to be like, hey, yeah, I grew up in Logan Square and I came back, and all of these storefronts that were closed when I was little, I would love to be there. But I do know that the North Side has a lot of opportunities with playrooms, and I'm a very, very, very big social justice person, and I feel like we need to bring equity into other spaces, and I really want to have something on the South Side. But I like, people are saying, hey, we want to be on the North Side. So if somebody wants to franchise Luna y Cielo on the North Side, let's do it together, right? Like, why divide us? We need to unite each other. I'm not trying to gouge anybody's money. I'm just trying to help everybody. I don't want to, I'm not, I'm not, what's that type of person called? I'm not money hungry. I just want to pay my bills, set my kids up for success, and then help our community. So, yeah.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I think that's why I am just so excited for everything you're doing, because of your heart behind it. Like, that makes people want to, like, help, inspire, like, elevate, all of the things, when you know that the person who is building a specific thing is doing it for the community, and like you said, has that story and that passion that's driving it.
I have to say, like, I have to, like, attribute that a lot to, like, Chicago Latina moms and what Isa has built. If you haven't seen her podcast, you should see it. You said season 1. Was it episode 1 as well, or?
I think it's technically episode 3 because I did like an intro and then.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember hearing that when you said that. You're like, technically. So yeah, like, that's what I love about being a part of this community. And I just have a lot of hopes and dreams for our next future generation, because if we're showing them how to be amazing women and children, then they're going to be amazing they're for their kids, our grandkids.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a perfect segue into asking you, like, what is a piece of encouragement or advice that you would want to share with the next generation or with like our generation of women?
It's really important to kind of reflect on how they were raised, because sometimes the way we were raised, we make up a lot of excuses for how we were raised, and we think that things are okay, and sometimes they weren't. And then we do it to our children without even realizing it. And then all of a sudden, like, we're in therapy because of it. And it's like, sometimes I struggle with my husband. He's coming around, thankfully. But his thing is like, oh, we turned out fine. And it's like, really? Did you turn out fine? And it's just like the way we kind of just talk to our children. Sometimes it needs to be with a little bit more respect. And I know that's hard because a lot of times our parents didn't respect us growing up, and it was kind of like, you're going to do it because I told you, because porque yo soy la mamá. And sometimes that doesn't work with everybody. You know, we're in a new generation. The kids are hearing different things. So, you know, and I know it's not easy. Trust me, I get it. But just like being willing to open up and learn, it's going to make things a whole lot better. And our kids are going to be so much more better for that. So yeah, as far as like business and stuff, there are so many resources, free resources out there for anyone that's interested in business, in opening their own business. Business plan. You need to have a business plan. When I first had my Lula Roll business, I didn't have a business plan. And I kind of regret not having one. I didn't know what it was though back then, right? Like I didn't go to school for business. I went to school for art, and I probably should have taken some business classes back then. Now thinking about it. And just having to talk about your business, put your ideas down, making sure that it's going to make sense, right? So when you go to sign a lease, which I haven't done yet, it's a lot of commitment. Like you're committed from anywhere from 3 to 10 years. You can be committed to a place. I did go into my bank last week, and so here's another tip. I used to work at a small community bank, and I knew that when I opened the business that I wanted to do business with a small community bank because of the relationship. And it's going to help me get a loan. I opened this account about a year ago. And so they know the history of my banking for the last year. So it will be a little bit easier to get a loan. And like when I went to talk to them, they're like, wow, you kind of know your stuff. And I'm like, oh, thank God he noticed, So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start my crowdfunding campaign because I've worked really hard on it. But I'm also kind of nervous because it's a lot of money. to be asking from people, like my goal, and it's like, it's gonna be I'm like sending it off to the universe, and I'm just like, please fund me. Please fund my project. No, but I'll kidding aside, like I have a lot more work to get done. By the time this episode airs, I'm sure it'll be launched already. So eventually we'll just be able to like link all my campaign links and stuff like that.
This is great. I think like as a Latinx community, like we want to support other people, especially who are going to be pouring back into the community. So I will be there. I'll be a cheerleader, and I'm just so thankful for this conversation. I'm thankful to know you and to just be able to get a little bit of your passion, like an encouragement poured into me. I'm thankful for your friendship. Why don't you share everywhere that people can find more information about Luna y Cielo?
Sure. So our website is lunaycieloplay.com. You can email me at lunaycieloplay@gmail.com. And I'm Instagram at Luna y Cielo Play. Luna y Cielo Play, sorry. And then Facebook, same thing, at Luna y Cielo Play. And then if you want to join the VIP group, that's just where I ask questions. And if you want to, I really want people that are going to participate in answering the questions, because it really helps me. You can search Luna y Cielo VIP, algo así. I can share it later. I just joined TikTok yesterday. I haven't put anything on. I was inspired by Lisette from La Casa. She's her Montessori is called La Casita Montessori. And like I was like, I told my daughter and my husband that I joined TikTok, and like I was so like anti TikTok, and I was like, but it's for the business, guys. And like I'm like, I had like, so I'm working at home, and like I'll have like a little break, and I have to look at TikTok so I can like figure out like how to do it. Like business TikTok is so different than just like you actually, you know what I'm talking about, Karina. Like you have to like come up with like interesting like, I don't know what they're called. Are they called stories? I don't know. Like reels? Reels, is that what they're called?
I think they're just called TikToks, videos.
Yeah, I'm so old. Okay, I am approaching 40, and I'm just like, I am too old to be on a new like Facebook launched when I was in college. Like I was already like a sophomore, maybe even a junior. When Facebook came about. So I'm like, I feel like I'm so old getting on TikTok, but no, Alyssa was like, yeah, every time she does a certain type of TikTok, she gets more traffic. And I'm like, that's what I need. I need to get that traffic. There's a whole bilingual community on TikTok. So yeah, but I told my husband yesterday, I was like, I downloaded TikTok and that's what I was doing at work today. And he's like laughing at me. I'm like, don't laugh. Like I have to do it now. So yeah.
We're gonna have to do a TikTok together.
Oh, that would be so much fun. Yeah. You got to teach me the ropes. Yeah. You're a youngin', so you can help me.
Not that young. I'm still like learning too. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. This conversation was great. I know it's gonna excite people and encourage them to start thinking about their own lives and their parenting and what they want to be passing on to their kids as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. For us. Me. I like when I talk about the business, I'm like, we.
I do the
business,
same.
We. Me. There's no mouse in my pocket, but
yes, thank you so much. And we'll see each other soon. But thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, wasn't that episode packed with all of the things? I mean, we talked about it all. I'm so thankful Vanessa was so open and honest with her journey as she builds a new space for the Latine community, because I know it's not easy, but it's going to be so worth it. Since our episode, Vanessa has launched her crowdfunding campaign, has started her TikTok, and has learned a lot more about social media. I also filmed her promo video, which I'll include at the end of this YouTube video if you want to check it out there. Okay, amigos, thank you so much for listening. There'll be a new episode every Tuesday, so after you listen, feel free to take a screenshot and share on Instagram and tag at Elevating la Cultura. You can also comment on our YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get more ears listening to these stories as we continue elevating la cultura. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week. Adiós!
Do you remember the movie Selena when her dad told her, we have to prove to the Mexicanos that we are Mexican enough and then prove to the Americanos that we are American enough? That resonated so much with me because I always felt like I was divided between two different cultures. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish because of fear of racism while we were living in Texas. And now as a mom, it is imperative that our children learn Spanish and keep our culture alive. My name is Vanessa Avalos and I'm opening the first ever bilingual Spanish playroom. Luna y Cielo will offer culturally relevant play, Spanish classes for all ages and levels, a mercadito with bilingual items, and we'll also have a cafe with cafecito and antojitos. There are other academies out there teaching our children Spanish. However, what sets Luna y Cielo apart is our classes, learning the language through play, through cultural experiences, and also through the community that we will be building. Dual language classes are a great start, but we need more opportunities for our children to continue learning the language outside of their classroom. We will offer extracurricular classes such as a book club or even a cooking class in Spanish so our children who are in the dual language program can continue learning outside of the classroom. During the pandemic, we took the time to launch our idea with our network, and the feedback has been truly amazing. One mom says that Luna y Cielo is a need for our community so our children can continue keeping the culture and language alive. Luna y Cielo will be a one-stop shop for all things bilingual. We will have memberships, classes, and we'll even offer birthday parties for your child to celebrate with us. Our future goals include opening up other locations throughout the city and the suburbs, and we also would like to be able to franchise so that other Latinos can build wealth alongside us. We need your help. We need help raising $25,000 so we can secure a location, do our build out, and open our doors. Join me and the 174 million people who are on their way to becoming bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural by the year 2050. For more information, visit us at lunaycieloplay.com.